Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness.
We don't know how to pray.
For we do not know how to pray as we ought, but that very Spirit, the Spirit of God, intercedes with sighs too deep for words.
How does the Spirit know what to intercede? Carry on.
And God, who searches the heart, knows what is the mind of the Spirit. Because
how does God know the mind of the Spirit? Yeah.
Speaking in tongues and talking in tongues and singing in tongues. I do it, but how does it happen like?
Well, it depends.
It happened to me a few years ago with your Life in the Spirit seminar.
Well, if you've prayed in tongues,
Yeah.
keep on praying.
Yeah.
It's a prayer of praise. That's what mostly it is. Praying in tongues, singing in tongues is beautiful with a lot of people. When you have 200 people singing in tongues, it's beautiful. And all the experts say it sounds as if there's a conductor, because as it comes to the end, it just comes down like zoom. And there's no conductor, and it's beautiful. It's all harmonizing. They say it's the singing of the angels. Beautiful when you get a group of people praying in singing in tongues. I experienced it once in a group called the Jesus Fellowship, started by a Baptist minister with several people in his church, and they agreed to form a community. And from 9 people it grew to several hundred. And I went there when his Baptist church was absolutely packed with people, so packed. I was standing in one of the aisles, and in front of me there was a trumpeter. He could not play his trumpet horizontally. It had to be played like that because of the person in front of him. He was so near, packed. And the leader, he preached 1.5 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours in the evening. And in the evening he said to us, "We're now going to pray and sing in tongues. I want the men to keep quiet, the ladies to start off, men to join in." Because he knew that the men's voices are not as good as the ladies' voices. And it went on for 3 or 4 minutes. It was beautiful. It really was beautiful. Okay.
Because in Colossians it talks about not ceasing in prayer. That's important. And asking you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will and all spiritual wisdom and understanding. And actually, it's not us praying, it's God praying through us. It's God's words, it's God's will. And to be contemplative and to be silent is very good, because we don't have the clutter in our mind and God speaks through us. And when the Holy Spirit, God speaks through us, that's very powerful prayer.
Yeah.
It's not us, it's God.
Okay, we're going to go through Derek Prince's list of blessings. It's long, we're going to go quickly. This is just to give you an idea of what he's saying. So I want people to read it for me. So some of you have read. You start off.
Okay, with the list of blessings. Derek Prince's list of blessings. Exaltation, health, reproductiveness, prosperity, victory, God's favour.
All positive. Carry on.
His list of curses: humiliation, barrenness, unfruitfulness, mental and physical sickness, family breakdown, poverty, defeat, oppression, God's disfavour.
All negative. Come on. Carry on.
Through personal observation and experience, Derek Prince has compiled a list, very close to Moses' list, of several problems that indicate a curse is at work.
Loretta.
1. Mental or emotional breakdown. 2. Repeated or chronic sickness, especially if hereditary. 3. barrenness, a tendency to miscarry, or related female problems. 4. Breakdown of marriage and family alienation. 5. Continual financial insufficiency. 6. Being accident prone. 7. A history of suicides and unnatural and timely deaths.
Okay. Cheryl?
Also, false gods and the occult, first and second commandments. Anti-Semitism, Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless you, and him who curses you, I will curse. And by you all the families of the earth shall bless themselves. The 12 curses pronounced on the Israelites on Mount Gerizim or Mount Ebal, Deuteronomy 27, are summed up as acknowledging and worshipping false gods, disrespect for parents, all forms of oppressions and injustices, especially when directed against the weak and helpless, all forms of illicit or unnatural sex.
Notice disrespect for parents. And I think what God is saying is, no matter how much your father or your mother may have abused you, you have to honour them as your parents. It is the only commandment with a promise. You will have a long life. I think it means spiritual. If you honour your father and your mother, keep that in mind. Okay, who's next? Marianne? No, sorry, Marianne. Yes.
Impose curses, mental and or emotional breakdown. It's driving me crazy.
So if you say that, it will do. That's what he's saying. Be careful the words that you use. If you're saying things like this, it'll happen like the next one. Go on.
Repeated or chronic sickness. Whenever there's a bug, I catch it. Barrenness, a tendency to miscarry, or related female problems. I don't think I'll ever get pregnant. Breakdown of marriage and family alienation. The palm reader said my husband would leave me. Continuing financial difficulty. I can never make ends meet. My father was the same. Being accident prone, it always happened to me. A history of suicides and unnatural or untimely deaths over my dead body. What's the use of living?
Right. There was, I think still is, a fantastic American priest called Robert de Grandis. I went on retreat with him because I had been invited to a day of his teaching. He used to teach the gift of the Spirit. And he says, if somebody says things like, what's the use of living? It depends. Or if they say, I don't want to commit suicide, but I can't see any point in living, he says, think about it, because that may have started in the womb. And he suggests praying about the womb. And he gives you a way of praying about the womb. I'm just going to, I also say now, what I do sometimes is this. If I've got a similar problem, I will say to the person, okay, and this is how I do it. I will pray in tongues, even if you can't hear me, because I'll say, in the first month in the womb, and I just pray in silence or sometimes out loud, I'm praying in tongues, and sometimes this noise comes out. And I say to the person before we start, I want you to tell me at the end which months gave a lot of noise, and in what sequence, or which was the strongest, which was the weakest, the noise. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if I mentioned this noise before. I need to mention it now. It's coming in the next seminar. It's the praying in tongues. I said to you before, I think, my tongues sometimes change. My tongues can be ordinary, and then praying in tongues, and suddenly it changes, and occasionally it comes out like this. And something has shifted, I don't know what. Now, that, according to the commentators, is the snorting like a horse. That's what they call it from the Greek. They call it anger or snorting like a horse. There's no reason for Christ to be angry when he sees Mary weeping and troubled. But the nearest commentator is a Catholic American, Raymond Brown, who says he thinks the Lazarus story, Jesus was praying against death. And I agree with him, because I think what he was praying in tongues, and he was praying against death. Now, if you put into the Google, Jesus sighed, S-I-G-H-E-D, or Jesus groaned, the commentators take you back to Lazarus. It's the same thing, anger or snorting like a horse. In other words, Jesus sighed, Jesus groaned, Jesus was perturbed. They all mean the same thing. And that's, I'm curious to look at the book Peter gave me by Mary Healy, when she says Jesus prayed in tongues. I think she'll say the same thing. Now, Jesus sighed, Jesus groaned. It's happy, he says it when he's just been healing somebody, a deaf mute or a blind man. Why would he be angry? He wouldn't be. Now, if he sighed, meaning he prayed in tongues, the evangelist would not know how to express it. They wouldn't know about praying in tongues. So they just say, well, he sighed, he groaned, and it looks like here, Lazarus, same thing again. Okay. So with this bit here about what's the point in living, when a person says that, it could have happened in the womb, meaning that the baby in the womb didn't want to come out. Now, I've read stories about an American with a psychiatrist. The American is going through a birth experience. And as he's saying, no, I don't want to come out, the signs of the forceps appear on his forehead. So the whole thing comes out as if he's being born. Okay. And what this priest, Broadbridge, says is, pray in the womb. So that's what I do now. I should pray. First month, I pray in tongues, nothing. Second month, third month, and so on. Now, tell me this, ladies who've got children, what happens about after 6 weeks? Pregnant 6 weeks. Or I'll put the question another way. When does the wife feel she's pregnant?
2.5 months.
Anybody?
2.5 months.
Sorry?
2.5 months. 6 weeks.
6 weeks.